Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the library and Friday Night Ghost Stories. So let's get the party started on this chilly April Friday with my traditional intro. And then we'll say hello to some folks. And then we'll get right into the story, because I'm really looking forward to doing this story. Here we go. Hello. And welcome to the library. As we say every week, thank each and every one of you for joining me. Now let's do our ceremonial lighting of our candles before we do anything else. Because we need candlelight for a ghost story. There we go. Shut this off now. There we go. That's the ambiance we need. As you can see, Lenny is back. Lenny is going to be a regular co-host, I think. Right, Len? Yeah. Whatever. Let me just say hello to everybody, as is my normal course of action here. I see Gerard. Gerard, thank you so much for checking in from upstate New York. Carmela, good to see you. Baywatcher, always a supporter, always here. Vincent Capisci, always here. Great to see you. Adam Crevorsier, Tommy Stiggs. Thindu is up late. I really appreciate that. Claudio was here later. Earlier, I saw Claudio here. Thank you so much for checking in from the Great White North. Who else? I said hello to Baywatcher. And I think someone said Godfather was here. I didn't see him, though. I don't see him in the chat, but someone said, oh, there he is. Godfather. Good to see you. How come you're not a mod? We need to make you a mod. I don't know how to do that from here. I'll do it later on. Edwin Jimenez in the house. Thank you. It's always a blessing to have you here. And Lenny, as I said, Lenny says hello to everyone and thanks them for joining. So, I have my drink as usual, my fields of gold to just sit back and chill a little bit. So, tonight's story, once again, we're talking about a road, a haunted road in New Jersey. This one is called Clinton Road, and it's in the township of New Milford, which is the northwestern corner of Passaic County. It borders Sussex County and it borders Morris County. So it's as north and as west as you can go and still be in Passaic County. Passaic County being Patterson, Passaic, Clifton, those type of towns, Wayne. But West Milford is the most rural part of that county. And you'll see when I show you some of these pictures that it's understandable why this would be an area that could lend itself to legends and ghostly tales because it's very rural. It's underdeveloped, which is, I always like underdeveloped areas. And it has a history going back a ways. So the road in question, West Milford, I'll show you right now, if I can, real quickly, what the road looks like at night. And you could see that it's pretty creepy looking. Share my screen. Where is it? I have several things open here. Here we go. This is what the road looks like at night. As you can see, there's no lights on it. And it's covered heavily on both sides by trees and foliage and forest. So it's a prime location for unusual things to happen. Hello, Arlene. Hello, Terry. Terry, I've never seen you before. You must be new. Thank you for joining. I appreciate that. TT Rod, my friend, is in the house, and Terry is your friend. Okay, cool. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for joining. I hope you like the story tonight. So this is the road. This is Clinton Road in West Milford, New Jersey. And a lot of creepy things have happened along this road over the past 100 years, I guess. So let me stop sharing that for a second. Back to me. Now, I titled this The Ghost Boy of Clinton Road because the Ghost Boy is the main spirit and the main legend that goes along with Clinton Road. But I'm going to go over 6 of them, including the Ghost Boy. So it's a rich area, which I love. And I've never been there. This is another place I've never been that I want to go and check out. But anyway, Clinton Road is about 10 miles long. From that picture I showed you, it's about 10 miles of that. Underdeveloped, nothing really there. And along this road, there have been ghost sightings. There have been strange creatures spotted. There have been alleged witch gatherings in the woods off of the road and Satanists doing their evil rituals. So a lot of creepy and scary things happening along Clinton Road. But let's start with the main guy here, the main spirit, the main story around Clinton Road, which is the Ghost Boy. Now, the Ghost Boy is said to haunt the bridge on what they call Dead Man's Curve. Now, there's a part of Clinton Road which has been nicknamed Dead Man's Curve because there's been so many accidents that have happened along that curve that people end up dead, unfortunately, over the years. And for a while, there was a lot of racing going on here where back in the 50s, kids would race their cars along this desolate road. And unfortunately, some of them would get into accidents and there would be deaths. So it's prime location for stuff like this to happen. So the Ghost Boy, he is said to haunt the bridge. Now, who is the Ghost Boy? There's several theories as to who the Ghost Boy is. No one really knows specifically, where he came from or what he does. One theory is that he was a boy simply sitting on the bridge one summer afternoon and fell into the water and drowned. And his spirit has been trapped there ever since. And I'll show you the bridge too. Why don't I do that too? I'll show you the bridge as I talk about the ghost boy, because it's important that you get a good framework in your mind of what I'm talking about here. All right, here we go. This is the bridge. Now, the bridge itself, look at that. That's creepy itself. It's an old stone bridge. And as you can see, it's quite a drop there to the water below. And I can understand why someone could end up getting hurt or even killed falling off of that bridge. So it's a creepy area along this, and on the top there is Dead Man's Curve along the corner there, where accidents tend to happen. So it's a bad area, I guess, when it comes to stuff like that. You have to be very careful driving there, especially at night, because there are no lights, and who knows what might jump out in front of you and cause an accident. So it's a creepy, creepy area. Now, the ghost boy is said to have been, and that one story I told you was the one theory, I should say, is that he was sitting on the bridge and fell off and drowned. Another theory is that there was a teenage boy who was playing chicken with cars. And we all know what that is, jumping out, jumping back, jumping forth. And unfortunately, when he was jumping back, jumped off the bridge by accident, died. His ghost still haunts the place. A third story or a third theory is that there was a boy that lived up the road on an old house in the area in the early 1900s, and that he would often make boats and sail them on the river. Paper boats, boats out of, he would carve out boats, etc. And then one day he was searching, one of the boats got away from him, went down the river, and he chased after it. And he actually went into the water around the bridge area to try to retrieve the boat, and unfortunately got stuck and drowned. So that's the third one. And the fourth story, or the fourth theory, is that there was simply a young boy, walking along the road when some reckless driver came and drove him off, and he ended up dying as he fell off the bridge into the water. So all plausible stories as to why a child or a young boy, might have died there, or would have been a ghost if those things happened to it. So let's talk about the story itself of how the ghost itself, some ghost stories that have been reported about the ghost boy. Now, the first one is from a woman by the name of Lisa Kramer. Now, she was walking along the road one day and decided to rest. She was hiking in the area and decided to rest on the bridge. So it was a bright, sunny day. It was kind of hot. So she's decided to rest on the bridge. She sits on the bridge. There was no traffic going by. She's sitting there in the sun, relaxing, and kind of daydreaming, to the point that she's just staring out, watching the cool water dribble underneath or flow underneath the bridge, almost putting herself in sort of a relaxed trance, watching the water. And as she's doing this, suddenly she sees the image of a boy's face in the water, as if the boy was standing next to her or behind her. It's the reflection of a boy's face. Well, this startles her. She turns to the left to see, and there's no one there. She turns to the right, and there's no one there. And then she turns back to see where the image was, and it vanishes. It's gone. So what could this be? I mean, this was a real startling incident to her. So she suddenly, pulls back from the bridge, and kind of wakes up from this relaxful trance that she was in, and is kind of concerned. Could there be a boy in the water? Could there be, a child that was stuck in the water? Should she go and look at? So she musters up the courage again to once again look over the side of the bridge. And she does. She looks over and she peers and she sees nothing. And she keeps peering and she keeps peering and staring into the water, when suddenly, out of nowhere, she feels a hand grasp her lapel and pull her towards the water. Now, thankfully, this pull that she experienced wasn't strong enough to actually pull her over the side. She yanked herself back from the water, from the edge of the bridge, and ran like hell from that area. And she swears, and told everyone that she met, she swore that it was the spirit of that face in the water that was trying to pull her in to her doom, I guess, in the river. So that's the first story that is told about the ghost boy. Now, the second story happens a few years later when a boy by the name of Billy Quinton, a young man, by the way, Billy Quinton, he went to the bridge. He heard the story from Lisa Kramer, and he went to the bridge to try to test it out himself. He was going to challenge this, and he didn't believe it at all and thought he was going to play a game or so with it. So he went out to the bridge, and he sees nothing. Nothing happens. He hangs around for a while. He looks, listens, nothing. It's all quiet. So he leaves and he goes for the day. He comes back at night thinking maybe it was the time of day. That was the problem. He comes back at night and he decides to hang around a little bit more. And he has a flashlight with him and he's looking around and he still sees nothing. And he gets to the point where he gets frustrating and he starts to taunt the spirit and say, "You're not here. What are you? Get lost, spirit. Show yourself or get lost." And he takes out a coin and he throws the coin, flips the coin into the water and says, "Take this coin and get lost, kid." And the coin was a quarter. It drops into the water, plop, plop into the water. Nothing happens. So at that point, he huffs and puffs and turns around and begins to leave. As he's turning around to leave the area, out of the water flies the coin, the very same coin he just threw, and smacks him dead center in the back of the head. Well, he was flabbergasted by this and quickly ran to the edge to look over. What is this? Who is this? Was there someone underneath there throwing a coin at him? And he looked over and there was nothing there. There was nothing there. But what he saw in the water was, again, an image similar to the Lisa Kramer image. But this time, the image was laughing, as if the ghost boy was quite entertained by him throwing the coin back at him and hitting him in the back of the head. So that was the second story, and Billy left and told his side to the story, told his version of the story to everyone in the neighborhood. Now, the third story happened a few years later when a mother of two was walking along Clinton Road. She lived along Clinton Road, and she would often take her children who were young, preschool-aged children. She had a 5-year-old, and then she had two younger kids. I'm sorry, she had 3 kids, 2 younger kids who she'd have in her stroller, and she would take them for a walk each day and midday during the summer. And every time she would cross the bridge, she would be very concerned and worried about her children, especially her 5-year-old, because he was quite rambunctious and he would run around, and she was very concerned that he might fall over the side of the bridge. So she would often yell at him and tell him not to do this, to get back, not to do this. And from time to time, he would simply not listen to her. So this time in question, she was walking with her stroller across, and her boy, her 5-year-old, ran off to the edge of the bridge, looking over the bridge to try to throw rocks. Now, as this happens, she sees him going a little bit too far over the edge, and her blood went cold because she saw him falling, losing his balance and falling over the side. Well, at that moment, she drops the hand she had on her stroller and darts to the end of the bridge where her son was falling. And just as she gets there, out of the blue, her son is suddenly thrown back into her arms. Now, how could this happen? She was completely beside herself. What happened? She saw her son go over the side. And as she was too late to save him, and as she got there, suddenly he was thrown back into her arms. And she swears that the ghost boy saved her son from certain death by pushing him back up and preventing him from falling into the water and possible death. So I guess in her story, the ghost boy is kind of a hero. You know, he saved a fellow boy, not wanting a fellow child to maybe meet the same fate that he did. So we have him doing that on that occasion. And then there have been several other. The fourth story is really a general story about how once the coin story got out, people would often go there and throw coins in just to see what happens, make a wish, much like a wishing well, do whatever they want. But consistently, the coins would reappear the next morning in the road, but not only on the road, in the middle of the yellow line, the coins would appear. And this story has been retold and told over and over again by many people that they've experienced this, that the coins that they throw into that river or into that stream will undoubtedly show up on the yellow line the next day, and no one can explain why it happened. So is that the ghost boy having fun again, playing a little trick? Possibly. Who knows? So that's our ghost boy. And one story, he was going to pull the woman in. In another story, he saves a boy from perishing. So who knows? So that's our ghost boy who haunts Clinton Road. Now, along Clinton Road, there's also something called Cross Castle. Now, Cross Castle is away in the woods, a few hundred yards off of the road. And Cross Castle was built in 1906 by Randy Cross. And unfortunately, Randy Cross, who built this, and it was a 3-story castle-like type of house that he built for him and his family. And he was some type of mogul, steel mogul or something like that. And I have a picture of it, so I'm going to show you. Now, this was built in 1906. However, he mysteriously dies in 1917. So he didn't get to really enjoy it that long, maybe 10 years. And not long after his death, the place burns to the ground. Let's show you what Cross Castle looks like. This is what Cross Castle looked like in the 30s. Now, this no longer stands, but you can see it's pretty darn creepy. It was razed by and demolished by the state in 1988 because it was a hazard. Too many things were happening there. Too many problems were occurring. And I'm going to get into that and tell you about that. But 1988, it's gone. Now, what's still there, though, is a foundation in the area. So you could still find it if you look for it. But it's definitely a creepy site that was thought to originally be haunted by Randy Cross himself, Richard Cross himself. Now, let me go back here and back to, there we go. Now, this remains of a castle, unfortunately, became over the years a gathering place for witches or people practicing the occult. So we had witches and Satanists going there and doing unthinkable things, animal sacrifices, stuff like that, over the years. And so many things went on there that there is an eerie feeling. Now, even though the place no longer exists, the area at which it was on is said to be cursed. And those that go there say they get a very funny feeling if they're on that area, they're in that area, that the air is stale and that it feels like there's no wind or no air. Even though it might be windy outside, that particular area, there will be no wind. It'll be perfectly still. So something is unusual about this area of where Cross Castle would stand. And in the 1940s, teenagers would gather there a lot too, to have drinking parties, etc., and stuff like that. And that went on for a while until something started to happen to them. Now, the people that went there to party and drink would describe areas or describe an effect where they would get a seizure. Now, these are people that did not have problems, but would get a seizure by being there, or mysterious bruises would show up on their body after they had visited there. So the place began to elude an evil feeling to it, to the point that nobody other than those with evil intent would go there, and thus why the state raised it and raised it to the ground in 1988. So it's also said that many people hear chanting. So they'll go there and they'll be hiking and they'll go by and they'll hear chanting in the wind, but see no one or anything. Others will say they hear maniacal laughter riding on the wind. So it's definitely a bone chilling area or place to be. And I don't think I would go there at night. That's for sure, because I would be too. It would be too unsettling for me. I wouldn't even go near there. But I wouldn't mind checking it out during the day and seeing what it's like and see if I could encounter any of this stuff or get that feeling that so many people get when they're around it. So Cross Castle, or the remains of Cross Castle, are along Clinton Road. The third story around Clinton Road has to deal with what they call the Druid Temple. Now, not far from Dead Man's Curve, into the woods also, there's a furnace that was built in 1826. Now, I have a picture of this. This is still there. And this has been nicknamed the Druid Temple. And the reason it's nicknamed that is because allegedly Druids had gone there and practiced their rituals. And but it originally was simply a furnace used to smelt metal. And then over the years, things like that kind of went to the wayside. This was 1826. During the 1800s, it was used. By the time the 19th century comes, or the 20th century comes, I guess, there's no use for it, and it kind of falls into disrepair. Now, here's a picture of the Druid, as they call it, the Druid Temple. And you can see why they might call it that. It's an odd shape, almost like a doorway there. But it was indeed, and there's even a historical marker on it that says that it was a furnace for smelting steel. Now, the story that goes beyond this one is similar, or goes along with this particular site, is similar to Cross Castle. And the main story has to do with three teenagers who went to explore this particular site. And there we go. That's better. So you can at least see what I'm talking about while I'm talking. So the teenagers went to explore this site again out of curiosity. And bad, horrible things happened to all three of these teenagers. The first one died in a car crash right on Dead Man's Curve, not far from this location after visiting it. The second teenager vanished completely one night and never returned. Went out one night and never came back, and no one ever found him again. And the third came down with some type of mysterious disease that they couldn't diagnose, and ended up dying suddenly. So horrible things have gone along with this area since it was dubbed the Druid Temple. And these people that went there, these teenagers that went there, seem to have gotten the wrong end of that curse. Whatever this cursed ground is, bad things have happened to them. So who knows? I don't know. I don't know if I'd go near this as well. But it's kind of creepy, when you think about bad things happening like that simply for visiting an area in question. Hello, Emmanuel. Good to see you, my friend. Gianni is in the house. Great to see you. Gina's here. Nice to see you. Tony the Night Owl. Thank you for joining. I don't know if anyone else. Paul C, I think, is here. Thank you for joining. So, great group of people here tonight. Thank you so much. You make the program what it is, not me. You do. So, thank you for being a part of it. All right. Now, let's go on to the fourth story that goes along Clinton Road. Now, this story is called The Ghost Camaro. Camaro meaning a car, sports car. And it said that in 1988, a girl was driving a brand new Camaro that she received for her 18th birthday and was driving wildly on Clinton Road and drove it so out of control that she ended up crashing and unfortunately perishing in an accident on Dead Man's Curve. And it said that her spirit drives a ghostly Camaro over and over again on the route that she took. And it happens every spring during a certain time period that this ghost Camaro is seen speeding by. And if you're on that road driving, it'll speed by you and then will proceed to Dead Man's Curve and then vanish. And several people have seen this and swear by it, that they encountered this ghostly encounter just simply by driving on this road on a spring day. So it's more so of a residual ghost sighting. Like there's no interaction. There's no story about interacting with the girl or anything like that. But just that there is this seeing this happening over and over again, this horrible incident in time happening over and over again. Now, the fifth story has to deal with a ghost truck. Now, the backstory to this happens in the 1970s when a couple by the name of Jim and Alice were out on a date, and they went to a local bar, and they were spending a good time dancing and drinking and having a fun time. And the end of the night comes, and it's late. The bar is shutting down, and they decide it's time to go home. So they get in their car, and Jim had a little too much to drink, I guess, because he ended up going the wrong way, and he ends up on Clinton Road, which was nowhere near he wanted to be. So what it does is it elongates the night. It's longer for him to get his girlfriend Alice home, but so be it. He proceeds to go along it. Now, as they're going along there, in the distance, in the rearview mirror, Jim catches the glimpse of two truck level, a truck is higher, like a pickup truck level lights following him. And it's odd because it's so late at night and there are usually no one on the road at this time. And he sees it getting closer and closer. It's gaining, and it's gaining. So he doesn't think much of it until the next thing he knows is that the lights are right up on him, and it's as if this truck is tailgating him. Now, Jim, is a little upset about this, a little bit annoyed. What's going on? Is it tell you? First, he thinks, is it a cop? Am I in trouble because I had a few drinks? Do I have to worry about that? Or is this such a jerk that's just trying to cause me trouble? So he rolls down his window and he waves the truck on. Pass me, pass me. He's not going to go faster. He's just going to take his time. Pass me, pass me. Well, the truck does not move. In fact, the only thing the truck does is get a little bit closer to his rear bumper, to the point that it's neck and neck. And both Alice and Jim say how bright, the brightest lights they've ever seen on two headlights were glaring through the back. They never saw such bright light before. So they're proceeding along to the point where they're almost towards Dead Man's Curve. And as they're approaching Dead Man's Curve, at this point, Alice is afraid. She's scared. What's going on? She grabs Jim's arm and is holding on to him. She's very upset at what's going on. She begins to cry. She thinks something's going to happen. And at this point, Jim is pissed because this guy is causing his girlfriend to have this reaction. He's upsetting her. So he ends up flipping the guy the bird and in hopes that, who knows, hopes that he will back off. Well, with that particular gesture, suddenly the truck lights curve to the left as if to pass, and they are gaining and they're starting to pass. Now, Jim is like, all right, I know this. I know what I'm going to do now. I'm going to see who this jerk is, and I'm going to, see who he is. And I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to see him and at least encounter him. And as he's waiting there, he sees as the truck comes up, to it's right behind him. And he looks over to see who was driving this monstrosity. And to his fright, there is no one driving the truck. And to that end, he panics and veers to the right. And suddenly the truck swerves in front of him and takes off so fast that he couldn't understand it. And as they're coming, they're approaching Dead Man's Curve, the car simply flies off straight into the woods and vanishes. Now, Jim and Alice were shocked beyond belief, and they stopped the car to look and see, what happened? What happened? And there's absolutely nothing. There's no car. There's no truck. There's no residue. There's nothing. It was simply an apparition of a ghost truck that had suddenly vanished into thin air. Now, what did it meet its limit, much like the Headless Horseman meets its limit when it crosses the bridge in Sleepy Hollow? Who knows? But it totally vanished off the face of the earth. Now, since that initial encounter, there have been several sightings of a ghost truck. Similar situation, not as intense, of glaring lights coming up behind a truck or behind a car. And then suddenly, some will say it vanishes, it disappears. Some will say it veers off. Some will say it shoots by. All different versions of the ghost truck and what happens. So that was the fifth story on Clinton Road, on what goes on in Clinton Road. And then the final story really has to deal with what they call a, hold on here. I'm missing my notes here. What did I miss here? Oh, it's the creature story, that there's odd creatures in the area. And this attends to that there's an alleged hellhound that haunts the woods there and runs rampant throughout the woods. It has glaring red eyes, and it'll howl this bone-chilling scream in the middle of the night. Now, no one has ever encountered it, or no one ever caught it, or took pictures of it, or anything like that. But it's just a passing story. And some say that they've seen monkeys in the woods, believe it or not, an albino wolf, like various animals they've seen in the woods there. Now, I don't know if anybody remembers, if you're from New Jersey, if you remember Jungle Habitat. When I was a real young kid, my parents brought me there, and it was an animal farm kind of thing, like an amusement park, kind of like Great Adventure type of thing with animals and stuff. And that closed down in 1976 or 1974 or something like that. I forget when it closed down. Mid 70s, it closed down. And it is said that certain animals escaped from that as they were closing it down, and that they've lived in the woods there ever since. And that they could have interbred, or been mutated or something to these creatures, these odd creatures that people see there. They could be descendants of real animals that were there, actual animals that were there. So that's it. That's the sixth and final story of Clinton Road, a very, very creepy place. Now, is it the most haunted road in America or in New Jersey? I don't know. You compare those stories to the stories I told a couple of weeks ago about Shades of Death Road. You decide which is better. Which is more scary, which has more of the paranormal involved in it. But the Ghost Boy, Crass Castle, the Druid Temple, the Ghost Camaro, the Ghost Truck, and the Unexplained Animals make it a pretty darn creepy place to be on any evening in West Milford, New Jersey. So that's my story for this evening. I hope you enjoyed it. Interesting stuff that's close to home for me. which that's what I like to talk about a lot of. So let me see what's going on in the chat. Just say hello to guys. If I haven't, Wyatt Earp was here. I see. Nice to see you, my friend. Vincent says some say they might seen Gaga on Glen Road. Too funny. Gianni, I saw an albino buck deer one night. I thought it was a statue in someone's front yard. I sat at the stop sign, just staring at it, and it flickered. Oh. Oh, and it flicked its ear. I'm sorry, it flicked its ear. Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, there's so many things that your senses can interpret as when you're on at night, and it could be something pretty normal, just a little offbeat. An albino deer is a perfect example of that. Thank you, TT. I hope you enjoyed it. Hey, thank you, Adam. I appreciate that. I don't know if I missed anyone in the chat. Todd Father, how are you, my friend? Good to see you here. Now, Gerard is saying, I missed this before. There's an odd cemetery next door, and that the very room I'm in was used for wakes and funerals. Wow, Gerard, that's where you live? That's amazing. Now, Johnny says there was a haunted place down in Connecticut we went to when we were teenagers called Dudleytown. It's haunted, of course. It's miles into the woods, off limits. No trespassing was on Old Pilgrim Town. You know what? I'll look into that, Johnny. I'll look and see if there's any stories online that I could find. So you called it Dudleytown. Huh. Interesting. I mean, we all have these type of stories. Every locality, I think, has something similar. In Essex County, we had the Witch's Castle, I think it was what it was called, in Cedar Grove, that people would go up there and try to see what happens. Old Pilgrim Town. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm always looking for leads for a great story. So if you have them, let me know, and I'll look into them and see what I can find out. Tony says she has some stories to tell and will be willing to do so if you let her. Hopefully, you can coordinate it for the next week. Oh, absolutely. Sure. I'd love to have you on. I'd love to have you on, Tony, tell stories. Absolutely. That'd be great. Yes, everyone must have a few, right? Right? Absolutely. So, Gerard, it was built in 1850. Have you had any specific experiences in your house? I wonder if you have. Because I look at there's a lot of old houses near me in my town because it's kind of rural and it's still old, and there are a lot of old like houses from the 1700s and the early 1800s that people live in. So I would be I was curious to see if those houses have paranormal activity, or people at least say they do. And Tony, your house is from 1886. Well, that's pretty old too. Yeah, sure. Oh, okay, TT, great. Yeah, we'll see you there in a bit. What time is it? I don't even know what time it is. I don't even see what time it is. That's 9:43. Okay, so you got some time. Get your tea ready. Tony is going on at 10:30. I mean, TT is going on at 10:30, everyone. So please go over there at 10:30. We still have a few minutes left here before we can all go over there, but definitely tune in to TT's show. The man who built it owned the whole damn block. Yeah, that's how it was, right? That's how it was. in those days, right? And even where I live, there are certain names that have resonated over the years, and they're German names. And these are people that are descended from original settlers, and they've owned large patches of land that eventually have been subdivided over the years. One is Bud. You've heard of Bud Lake. Bud was one of those people that owned large patches of land, and it was another one is Apgar. Apgar was another name that owned a lot of land. And I got these names from old maps that I've obtained. One was from the 1700s, one was for the early 1800s, and it showed how the area in question was divided up into land portions. Nortright, which is the name of a street in town, is one of them. So yeah, those old families, those settlers that they got all the land, right, and then ended up dividing it and selling it. Sliminy, good to see you, my friend. Thank you for stopping in. Apgar, Gina. There's a P in there. Apgar, Apgar. I don't know if there's an agar, but there's the one I've known is Apgar. What else is happening, guys? What else are we talking about in the chat? I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on in the chat. I'm sorry. I was deep into my stories, so I wasn't really paying attention while you guys were talking, but you're talking about some cool stuff, it looks like. I think I said hello to everybody too. So it was, I think there's probably passed out. His toothpicks have fallen out of his eyes, and he is on the couch, fast asleep at this point. So, Vincent, you see, I'm not saying this as a joke. I seen some informant gangster guy chasing ghosts with equipment and all kinds of stuff. So you're saying that there's an informant that is a ghost hunter trying to be a paranormal investigator? Is that what you're saying, Vincent? That's bizarre. Oh yeah, Tony, you don't know Sliminy? Sliminy's been around for a while. Sliminy's got a show. He goes on every day. It's usually at times I can't make, but he's on every day, Sliminy. Talks about music, stuff like that. But yeah, so that was my stories. Clinton Road, West Milford, New Jersey. If you can, check out the area. I think it's worth it, worth the trip. Yeah, it sounds like he was trying to be a Ghostbuster. Also, Slimmy, you're going on at 10. Okay. I'm going to make more people mods here so they can drop their links. Please feel free to drop your links for you. If you have shows, promote them. Absolutely. I'm only doing Friday. I only do Fridays at 9. So, I don't have a big clientele here, but why not? Share it, see what happens. Share it. You might get someone to show up and subscribe to your channel. So by all means, do it. I'll go back and make more people mods later on. I don't know how to do it while I'm live from the laptop, but I can do it from my phone. Thank you, Mike F, for sharing Sliminy's link. If you can you share TT's too? If you can. couple of weeks ago, Mike F had some odd activity on his Ring doorbell, which he sent me a video of, which I think could be paranormal. I was wondering if anything else happened. If you have anything else, Mike, let us know. If you encountered anything else since. Seymour, good to see you, my friend. Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. Thank you, Mike F, for sharing that link. Thank you. All right, guys. Well, as always, I want to thank each and every one of you for stopping in, listening to my stories. Please press the like button if you can. It helps. I've noticed that. The more likes I get, the more YouTube sends it out, and the more residual views I get. The last week's, I got almost 300 views, which is great for me. I'm a little guy here, little channel, very, very little channel. So I got 300 views on last week. So, and I think that's because we had so many likes. So if you can like it, thank you. I really appreciate it. It's helpful. Good luck to you, Slimini, on your show. Have a good one. And thank you, each and every one of you, for tuning in and spending some time and making my show worth watching. So I will be back next Friday. Until then, I will say God bless. I love you guys. Have a great week. And let's blow out the candles as we always do here.